Welcome back to Startup Hack. All right, now you've probably heard all the doom and gloom about software development job market. It's been a rocky few years. 2022, 2023, and even the first half of 2024 felt like getting sucker punched. But here's the kicker. There's a massive report suggesting a turnaround, and guess what? Software development jobs are just set to make a comeback by the end of 2024 and heading into 2025. Yep, we're talking about new opportunities, more positions, and a much needed lift in the tech space. And if you've been thinking about joining the field, stay tuned because you'll want to hear what's coming up next. So let's dive into this today. All right, welcome back to Startup Hack. I'm Spencer Thomason, and here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers in our licensed coding boot camps and to build custom software solutions for folks. I do a lot of work as a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership and a solid 25 years in software development, I've mastered the art of transforming technology, teams, and products. All right, let's dive into this. So the first thing that we're going to dive into is we've got this data that I've been analyzing, and I've got some new reports that I want to show you. So according to the latest reports, we're seeing the first signs of recovery in the software development market. Companies have been in survival mode for about 24 months now, cutting back and freezing hiring, but the tides are starting to turn. End of 2024 predictions are showing that demand for engineers will be up, particularly in sectors like cloud computing, AI, and security. So this is huge news. In short, while the downturn may have felt endless, there's light at the end of the tunnel for software developers. And I can show you some data as to why you're feeling like that was endless and why it would never turn around. Now, a major factor driving this comeback, I think it's the rise of AI and machine learning. AI is evolving, but it still needs humans to push its boundaries and develop innovative solutions. Even though automation has been a concern, the truth is that developers will be needed more than ever to design, implement, and maintain AI-powered systems. So that's right, AI isn't replacing us, it's partnering with us. For all you future developers, this is the kind of job market you want to jump into. So while big tech companies have been the ones making headlines for layoffs, the smaller and mid-sized players are ramping up. Startups, mid-sized companies, and those working in niche industries like health, and fintech are still on the hunt for developers. This means more jobs and more openings to work on innovative projects that actually make a difference. Now's the time to get your foot in the door in these high growth sectors. So the biggest misconception right now that it is a bad time to enter the field, and that's wrong. If you've been hesitant to dive into coding, stop waiting. This is the prime time to start training. So by 2025 rolls around, you'll be perfectly positioned to take advantage of new wave of opportunities. And if your company has systems that aren't connected, let us help you out here at Startup Hack. Our specialty is connecting systems to help your company work like a well-oiled machine. So check out startuphack.com/Spencer and we can help you out. Now, one of the biggest trends going into 2025 is remote work. Companies have figured out that developers can work from anywhere, and this flexibility is going to open up even more jobs, especially in the small and mid-sized companies. So if you've got skills, it doesn't matter where you are, opportunities will be knocking on your door. Now, not to mention salaries are bouncing back. Reports are showing that companies' compensation packages that dropped during the downturn are starting to creep back up. So whether it's a startup or an established companies, developers with the right skill set will be in high demand. So keep sharpening those skills because companies will be ready to invest in tech talent again soon. Now, another key driver for job growth is the need for digital transformation. Companies in nearly every industry are shifting more and more of their business online. From e-commerce to banking, digital solutions are needed more than ever. And who's building these digital platforms? That's right, software developers. So the opportunities here are endless. Now, let's not also forget about the role of engineering managers. A surprise uptick in software engineering management roles is already being seen, and it's expected to grow into 2025. Companies will need experienced developers to lead new projects, manage teams, and drive innovation. Even if you want to stay technical, there's a lot of dev lead type roles. So if you're thinking about advancing your career into leadership, 2025 might just be your year. And again, if your company is struggling to stay connected, don't wait. Startup Hack's got you covered. Our expertise in connecting systems ensures that your business will run smoothly no matter how complex your infrastructure. So check out startuphack.com/Spencer and see how we can help. Now, another trend that's helping is the resurgence of the ZIRP, the zero interest rate policy. This means cheaper money for companies to invest in growth. And guess where they'll be spending a lot of it? in tech. Software developers, engineers, and IT teams are going to be at the heart of these investments. So where we saw the Fed's lower interest rates, that usually has a trailing effect of about 3 to 6 months that you're going to see that then creep into an increase in software and technology. So the practices within engineering itself are evolving too. Agile, DevOps, and continuous integration are driving the need for skilled developers and DevOps who understand not only the code, but also the systems and pipelines that move code into production faster than ever before. This is one of those areas where it still requires a human. Yes, there's some skills, some tools you can use for AI, but really that's where humans are going to continue to shine. So the more you know about these processes around DevOps, the more valuable you'll be in this growing market. Now, don't sleep on the engineering practices coming back in vogue either. Sure, the trends change, but solid fundamentals in things like testing, version control, REST, API systems, and system architecture will never go out of style. So as more companies wake up to these realities, they're hiring developers who can do it all. So be that person. Now, I want to dive into this job report a little bit because there's some really good juicy details that I want to dive into here a little bit. So let me switch over my camera here. So if you don't follow Pragmatic Programmer, and I made his font really small because some of his charts and stuff we're going to get to here. So the state of software engineering job market in 2024, and I've followed his stuff for a while, but he talks about Amazon reducing some of their numbers, as we've talked about, surprise uptick in software engineering recruitments over the summer. But let's dive into some of this data. He talks about where he gets the data, talks about some of TrueUp, and questions that he's going to hit. Now I want to zoom out a little bit to talk about this. Now, this kind of a chart, and we see one area of section here where we see the software engineering discipline grow. And this is what's attracted a lot of attention, this little red mark right up here. Now, if you look over the last 25 years, software development growth, job growth, right, has definitely been on the trend, upwards. I mean, this growth rate over 25 years is crazy. You will not find any other industry that has this level of job growth. Even healthcare, where we've seen crazy booms over the last 25 years, still doesn't even come close to this level of job growth. Now, he points out a couple of interesting points here, and I'm going to kind of dive into these just a little bit. So, one of the things he notices is, what do we see right here? This is where we see a huge shrink, and this was the years following the dot-com bust, right? But then what followed it? A huge period of growth. Then what do we see right here? This is the 2008-2009 market crash, right? So we definitely saw, these were small growths. This was small growth. But then after each of these two, we saw huge periods of high growth, right? This high growth here came out of everything from 2008-2009. Now, this is what I've seen now 3 times, and we saw a little bit of it here even in COVID. If you hyper focus right here, you can see that in COVID we saw some growth, some shrink, and then some explosion right after, right? So every time I've seen software growth compress, what it really does is just kind of spread out, because people don't stop their hunger for technology. And this certainly is true in 2024 and in 2025. We don't see that growth stop. We see it get put on a shelf for a little while. Now, we saw this period of hyper growth, which I believe created a bubble. So if you want my opinion, what happened right here, it's a combination of a lot of things, and we've talked about a lot of them. But one of them is, I think, a technology bubble kind of burst. There was a correction, and a correction that had to happen. Now, this last little tick here is what I want to highlight on. So we saw low growth, then we saw actually negative. So we saw a negative for the first time in 25 years. I don't think this is some crazy indicator. I think it was this many years of crazy growth. I think there had to be some kind of correction around this. So I actually, in the long-term picture of this, think this was a healthy correction. What was happening in 2022 right here on this mark was totally unhealthy, and one of our largest years of rapid growth. Ridiculous level of growth. I remember the company that I was at had about 60 engineers, and we had 16 open recs, and we literally could not hire. We could not find people, and we had remote positions open, everything, and we could not hire. So I think what you're going to see here is some healthy correction of it. Was this painful for us? Yeah, a correction, recession, like whatever you want to call it in that area is always going to be a period of pain. And there's no doubt about that. And so we clearly saw that pain point, and that's what we've been seeing. Now, we can go over some of the other things with things that lost, but this is another thing that a lot of people talk about is, oh my gosh, jobs are going to go away. No, we did see this retraction, right? But what you saw right before that was a huge period of growth. And you notice that on charts like these from things like TrueUp, they start in like 2022. So you never really get to see the full picture here of what happened for the 2 decades before that. And that's why I like this graph right here, is because this graph is going to actually show you. But overall, if you go from 2020, if you want to pick a career to be 25 years in, man, that is a ridiculous level of growth. And so everybody's really hyper focused on this period. This was the corrective period. So yeah, that's going to be painful. He goes on to show that there's still tons of job openings on a lot of different places. And I'm going to put this in the links down below. He talks about some of these drop-offs, from headcount growth. And so he's showing some of these on here that show, headcount growth. And yes, this is that massive period of layoff, and especially where the big tech companies really swayed a lot of that. So I thought those were really interesting. You can go over to the data here from TrueUp. And again, this one actually shows even a little more zoomed out, because we can see this crazy period of hyper growth, right? 100,000 jobs in the span of about 6 months. And it was on a hyper growth trajectory even before that. So what you're actually seeing is really this curve. Let me scroll up to it here really quick. You're seeing this curve hit a natural line. And so as a statistician, which I'm no statistician, but if you were and you look from here to here, that's still a ridiculous growth rate, right? Over a 5-year period of time, if you pick from before pandemic to here, it's still a job growth over 5 years. Was there a period of 2 really hard years? Yeah, totally. But there's a crazy growth still over the last 5 years. It's still grown almost 20% in the last 5 years. That's a huge job growth for any industry. So I think we kind of get stuck in those couple of small years to see that. And I wanted to show one other thing. So what he's seeing here is he's seeing a total uptick, and this is a fairly small sample size I'm going to give you. But what we're seeing is we saw April saw a big hiring. We saw July saw a massive growth in hiring. In another one of his charts, he's showing that April definitely peaked out on some of these hirings, but it was still strong over the summer. And so this report was talking about how there's definitely an uptick. And while we're still hearing some of the companies are kind of catching up in relation to that correction, you're still hearing about some layoffs with like Intel and some of these others that are kind of skewing some of the overall charts. But definitely what he's trying to point out here is the same thing I've been pointing out for the last couple of months. 2024, we're starting to see an uptick into job hiring through the last months in 2024 and going into 2025. So don't sleep on engineering practices. Make sure you're still working on continuing to grow your skills if you're a developer. If you're thinking about entering this field, it's still a good time. I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of fear and skepticism to this area, but I'm telling you that over a 25-year look and even on a 5-year look, we're still seeing strong job growth. And it's projected by all the labor markets that software development is still one of the highest growth areas. And I think we haven't even seen what we're going to do with AI yet. I think as we find use cases for these new tools, I think you're going to see it continue to grow. So to sum it all up, the job report is the green light the developers have been waiting for. 2024 was rough, without a doubt. There is no doubt that it was rough, right? And so without a question, but I think that we're definitely poised to see a huge new growth. So as the second half of the year wraps up and we head into 2025, we're poised for a revival. So if you're training right now or looking to level up your skills, stay the course. Your future as a developer is bright. Now, what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I love having a great discussion here. So the best compliment you can give me is to leave a comment down below. Here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers in our licensed coding boot camps, as well as to build custom software solutions for folks. So reach out because we'd love to help. Also, if you're especially in Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Montana, and a couple of other states that I'm not remembering off the top of my head right this minute, hit us up because we have a new way that we're able to look to help fund you in our software developer license boot camps. So reach out because we'd love to help. Hit the links down below or check out startuphack.com today, and we'll catch you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.